you courtesy of the red, white, and blue.
It's time for Veterans Issues, the show that brings you information about veterans, military, and their family. Now here's your host, Ken Rollins.
Welcome to Veterans Issues. Ken Rollins here. Appreciate you tuning in this week. This week's guest has been on here before, but he's been here, 3 or 4 times. But this week we're going to talk about something that, well, he's mentioned here once before, but we're going to talk more in depth about it today, about a special event coming up for AUSA, that's Association of the United States Army. Got that right. Nailed it. Be right back with Colonel Greg Potts. Welcome back to Veterans Issues. Ken Rollins here, and today's guest is a friend of ours. He's a former depot commander, but he's retired, and his name is Greg Potts. Colonel Potts is here to talk about AUSA, and we'll talk more about that. Welcome to the show, Colonel Potts.
Thank you, Mr. Rollins. Ken, appreciate being back.
Good to be back, to be anywhere, be seen, be heard from, and still above the, I don't want to say the green grass. I haven't seen any of that in a long time, have you?
Darn little. I have a few weeds coming in the side yard. That's as close as I have to green grass so far this year.
There's a fella told me his grass was so brown up in Cleveland County that he was putting sunglasses on his cows to try to fake them out and make them eat that. That's pretty bad, isn't it?
That's very bad.
I don't believe that really happened.
But it's worth laughing about.
Okay, this is something coming up with first of all, for those out there watching, AUSA don't mean a lot to everybody, but that's the this Association of the United States Army. I always get that mixed up. I would say AUSA. But tell me some of the things that it does, first of all, before we tell about the big event.
Thanks, Ken. First of all, AUSA is the voice for the Army and support for the soldier. The Army, because it is federal government, it can't advocate for itself legally. So it has educational institutions like AUSA to speak about what's going on and to get support for what it is doing for its soldiers, for its families, for its veterans, for its civilians who are affiliated with the Army. So Army, AUSA, with the Army, tries to shape what the issues are and tries to get support for it, to remind people that even though we have supposedly drawn down in Iraq and we are drawing down in Afghanistan, we still have thousands of soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines, but mostly soldiers deployed primarily in Afghanistan. And they need our help, they need our prayers, they need our support. And we're here to try to focus that and remind people that we are here to support the Army, to be the voice for the Army and support for the soldiers. You know, Ken, sometimes you'll hear people say we're a former military community or we used to be a military town. We are probably about the most veterans community and military community there will be anywhere in this country. You have, 4,000 military and civilian working on Anniston Army Depot. You have 1,000 plus folks on any given weekend going through the Fort McClellan Army National Guard Training Center with Colonel Chuck Keith and his people out there. The firing we hear on weekends, firing out at Pelham Range. We won't even talk yet about all the reservists, the Army Reserve folks who are training at least one weekend a month, and all the veterans that are around here. We are a military community, have been, are, different than what we were when Fort McClellan was different, but Fort McClellan lives on. You know, a couple weeks ago, I'm sorry to be getting all excited, but you hit a good point. A couple weeks ago, I was up in Huntsville at the Winter AUSA Symposium. There at the Von Braun Center. In past years, it had always been at Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Great venue, but doesn't have much to do with the military. Last year at Fort Lauderdale, they had about 1,200 attendees and exhibitors, 1,200. This year in Huntsville, drew almost 6,000, more than quadruple the numbers.
How many?
6,000, 1,200 to 6,000. Why? Because you have a military community, you had a very welcoming state. Governor Bentley gave the keynote address the first day and talked about what a great veteran state we are, that we have more veterans per capita than any other state in the nation. That's what the governor said. I'm not going to argue that. Same week, Senator Sessions was in town to talk about the Center for Domestic Preparedness and about the depot and supporting it. Senator Shelby, week before last, was on Anniston Army Depot talking jobs and economy. And last week, our Congressman, Mike Rogers, was up on Capitol Hill Who was he there with? Major General Mike Terry, the commanding general, senior to our depot and most all the depots in the U.S. military system, and General Dennis Vai, the 4-star of the Army Materiel Command. Congressman Rogers had one-on-ones with them, reminding them about Anniston Army Depot and getting their assurance that yes, ANAD continues to be the crown jewel and is necessary to maintain readiness for our troops. Good meetings, good visits, a great military community, Ken. Can't say it any other way.
I like you saying that. You know, it's like they always talk about, I used to be a Marine, you know, once a Marine, always a Marine.
Yes.
This was, so much history here of the old Fort McClellan and today the gathering of veterans. But let me ask you something there.
Please.
When you said the military and the veterans, but what about the civilian workforce at Anniston Army Depot? Are they a part of AUSA?
Gracious, yes. When I say voice for the Army and support for the soldiers, we usually think of those in uniform. But everybody who supports the Army is, as we used to say in our time, we're soldiering along. And it's the civilians, of whom there are more Department of the Army civilians than there are active military, who are carrying the load. Anniston Army Depot, almost 3,000 actual DA civilians working there. In fact, almost 3,000. I believe it's just over 3. I haven't got my updated figures lately. To make sure that our equipment that our soldiers take into battle and deploy with is combat ready. No, civilians are an absolute key part of it. In fact, the great news is that in our chapter, most of the members are civilians or veterans.
Like
and
me.
we hope there are going to be that many more. And thank you very much. Thank you very much.
That goes back to Rosie the Riveter. Remember
Yes.
that? You don't remember. You
Well, I remember the picture. I'm almost as old as I look. No, the civilians let the soldiers, they allow the soldiers, they provide the soldiers the metal, and we're talking METAL and METTLE, the stuff they need to succeed, to go train, fight, and win.
I don't know if I ever told you. You was my commander at one time
Oh,
out there.
yes,
But
those were good days.
I know you know that, but I don't know if you know this. I've often said on this show and other places.
Yes.
In my service, 8 years and 10 months, one of the most proudest times in my life of patriotism was at Anniston Army Depot during the Lebanon crisis.
Yes.
They gave us just so many hours to get 65 vehicles, M60 tank, on the ground prior to the Marines landing. We worked 24/7 to the point that we couldn't hardly stand up. But just knowing what we were doing, just knowing that our work would be, they were waiting on our work before they landed. To be such an integral part of any kind of a mission like that, I was seeing it come to, when the TV cameras went on, there's our work from Anniston Army Depot. And too many times we take it for granted as a economic thing for the depot out there and jobs and that kind of thing. But there's some people out there doing some great stuff the warfighters benefiting from.
And Ken, it just isn't Army. And yes, it is jobs and the economy, because that keeps the whole community rolling. And we're talking, if I'm correct, between the Anniston Army Depot and the Fort McClellan Army National Guard Training Center, Department of Defense, Department of the Army is the #1 employer in our community. By far, probably bigger than JSU. But yes, when you're talking about readiness, what the troops in the field need, Anniston Army Depot just doesn't do Army stuff. If you see a Marine tank, guess where that Marine tank came from?
Yeah.
Anniston Army Depot. It just isn't soldiers.
They're telling me.
It's everything.
They're telling me break.
Oh, thank you. You got me wound up,
They're
Ken.
telling me in my
You got
ear,
me wound
break,
up.
break. You got to go to break. Come back. We're going to pick up right
Please.
there. Be right back. Welcome back to Veterans Issues. We're talking with Colonel Potts here, and we're talking about AUSA. Now, when we left, we were talking about the civilian workforce at Anniston Army Depot and their contributions to the warfighter. But we may get back to that. But first, I want to make sure we get this covered, this special event that's coming up that we bring up on the screen here, and in the control room, they'll have it be showing up on the screen that people can watch it and see as we've got it up there.
Great.
That general membership breakfast meeting. Tell us about it.
Exactly. Periodically, we like to have meetings for the whole membership to bring them up to snuff on what we've been doing lately, such as our Christmas Care Package program, remind folks that we were part of the depot's Wounded Warrior Hunt back in January, how we're getting ready for more care packages to be sent to the soldiers that we still have deployed from this area, mostly National Guard soldiers, but we're still deployed to Afghanistan. So at this general membership meeting, we're going to bring people up to speed on where we are, what our projects and programs have been, and we have a special guest speaker that day, Congressman Mike Rogers, to talk about the upcoming budget that just got released today, and I don't have time to go into it, but we need to support, the little bit I've seen is we need to support our Army, and I'm not sure how that budget's doing it, and to talk about his recent conversations with General Terry and General Vi and the Army leadership on the Anniston Army Depot and the future of our Army. Great opportunity. Love to have you come. If you're a member, you're expected. If you're not a member of AUSA yet, please still come. We'd love to have you come and become a member of AUSA then. I think you can see up on the screen before. Send it to rgraben, Miss Ricky Graben, our chapter secretary at aodfcu.com.
rgraben at aodfcu.com. We had that on the screen. We'll show it again.
Thank you.
That is the meeting to bring us up, to bring your community up to speed. There's a lot of people here that's still involved in Chamber of Commerce. There's a lot of people that's still involved in the community, but the fear of losing, all you have to do is turn on TV and know that we're downsizing. We've got a bunch of people coming home from Alabama from Afghanistan. We got a lot of challenges as a result of that. We already have an unemployment problem as it is here. Now we're going to dump another 20,000 people back here in Alabama. And the AUSA, the people that go to the Hill and says, we need our part of the pie. You can't just have Shelby, Sessions, and Rogers doing it. You have to have some people from the community telling them what we need to fix this. If you want a weapon that will do this, we need certain tools to do this. And somebody got to tell them.
And that is part of what we in AUSA do, and we have different venues and different people and different forums we go into to continue to educate the public, all Congress, just not asking Senator Shelby and Sessions and Congressman Rogers to carry all the water, but we help them with shaping the issues, shaping the explanations, and getting that word out. Now, you're absolutely right. Talking about, as we draw down from Afghanistan and other places, there's downward pressure on the defense budget and on the depot workforce and workload. Just hold that for a minute. Year and a half, 2 years ago, we thought FY14 was going to be a really tough year for the depot. Some great leadership out there, a lot of people pulling on the rope the same way. Looks as though 14 is going to be at least as good, if not better than 13. And 13 wasn't bad. 15, that's time away, who knows? A lot of questions, a lot of things still have to be answered. 2 points I'd make though. Number one, depot workload now is better than 50% over what it was when you and I were on the depot together, Ken. And that's not too bad.
You know,
things were a little tough then, but it's a whole lot better now.
One of the things we don't talk about that much is foreign military sales.
Yes.
Anniston Army Depot, when I worked there, we were working on Egyptian vehicles, we worked on Palestinian vehicles. Every country you can think of, Israelis, they depended on Anniston Army Depot to give them the quality product.
Ken, it's not for me on this show to divulge anything I'm not supposed to, but let's say there continue to be a number of friendly foreign countries that spend time on ANAD and are asking ANAD to repair their weapons, their combat vehicles, and they're looking at other things.
Absolutely.
Because they get quality from ANAD, and you talk about that Lebanon experience. They not only get quality at a price, but they get it when they need it.
Absolutely.
And ANAD delivers. There are other organizations, and I've been part of them, and I know other ones, both commercial and within the organic base, within the Department of Defense. They might talk a good line, but they don't always deliver. ANAD's got a great past, a great history of delivering, coming through, performing, and getting the quality product when it's needed. And if people ask me, what do I think is the best thing ANAD can do for the future? Continue to improve, continue to deliver. Continue to look for little ways to make the job better, to be more efficient, and keep delivering on-time quality, because that's what the customer either in the United States, whether it's Army, whether it's the Marine Corps, whether it's another country. That's what they're looking for.
And these during these foreign ventures we go on periodically, our depot employees have went stationed in Kuwait and other places to provide, in Afghanistan, and places to provide that necessary on-the-spot needed. And I'll tell you this, in '66, I think it was, I had to go to a place called Cameron Bay with my unit. And there was a fellow that used to work out at the Anniston Army Depot there with the parts that we needed and the items we needed, and they had Anniston Army Depot on them. And I can say from the field how good it felt to know that that was coming from Anniston Army Depot, because we trusted it. It had a reputation back then.
Still has the reputation. And when I mentioned before about sending Christmas care packages to our soldiers and our people deployed from this area, last Christmas, when we sent the packages overseas, we sent as many Christmas care packages to DA civilians who are ANAD employees who are deployed as we did to soldiers.
That was AUSA did that.
AUSA did that. We continually send the packages, but ANAD on top of that has continually sent civilian employees overseas to support our equipment and our operations in a wide variety of places. And if I can just get a plug in, we're talking so much about ANAD. The Army National Guard Training Center quietly goes about it. I'm sorry?
Chuck Keith
quietly goes about their business, training not only National Guardsmen and reservists, but active military. Quietly going about their business, not a whole lot of flash and dash. Hold this number in the back of your head for just a minute. $24 million. It's nice. Nope, that's not payroll. Nope, that's not expenditures. $24 million is this year alone construction on the Army National Guard Training Center. That's in addition to the more than 30-some million last year, and there's still more in the pipeline for the future. Continually. You look at budgets of communities around here, cities of Oxford, Anniston, Ohatchee, Jacksonville, you match up $24 million of brick and mortar. And that shows up.
That's what I was going to say. This material that they use is not from their supply room. This is material from the Anniston area, the plumbing, the electrical, all those supplies.
Oh, yes.
And we got less than a minute, so give me your best shot.
These are local construction companies continuing to improve our area. Best shot, come out and learn more about not only what your Army is doing, but what AUSA is doing to support the Army and its soldiers and civilians. Thursday, March 20th, Classic on Noble for breakfast. A great buffet breakfast. You can't eat everything they have, and David and Kathy Mashburn do such a great job. They even encourage you to take a to-go box with you after you eat breakfast.
They're good. We know some good people, don't we?
Ken, thank you
Colonel,
so much.
I appreciate you being on here today, and you'll be back. We got other stuff to talk about. AUSA, and if you didn't get that information, look at my phone number, and you can call me, and I'll give you more information. We got to go to a break. Come back. I've got news that you can use. Stay right there. Get the pen. Welcome back into Veterans Issues. Appreciate Colonel Potts coming on doing the show today, that AUSA. And remember that date is Thursday, March the 20th at the Classic on Noble at 7:30 a.m. or 07:30, whichever you prefer. I'm going to try to be there. So come on down. Great place, great information there. WEAC TV 24 on demand button. That's where you can get this show. If you're watching us now on cable, and you have some friends that don't have the access to us, you can go to that website, TV24 here, and go to the on-demand section and scroll down and get Veterans Issues. This show will be on there, and along with a lot of the others. So if there's information you missed and some of your friends can't get us, tell them to go over to the website. Now, the Cheehaw Regional Humane Shelter out there at by the old dump, they need things like throws, sheets, some treats for the animals, and the phone number I want you to write down, if you don't want you to get the pen, is 256-241-3647. That's 256-241-3647. Thanks to Jane Cunningham, Lisa, and all the rest of them. They do such great work out there for our little critters. And I could tell you some things. I'm going to have Jane on here to tell us about the statistics, but you're going to be very proud of how they are doing through this new group take over that facility. And the law enforcement tag that we talk about here on every week, That I want you, when you get ready to buy a tag for your vehicle, to consider the law enforcement tag, the one you're looking at on your screen right now. The shield with a rose in it is symbolic of the National Law Enforcement Shield, the memorial for their memorial in Washington, D.C. A portion of the revenue from the sales of this tag will go to the building memorials in Anniston, but a certain percentage will go to the one in Washington, D.C. And that anyone out there, you don't have to be in law enforcement, but anyone can order that tag, get that tag, and look what that'll say about you if you're being followed by law enforcement. They can say, that person in that car really supports our law enforcement memorials. I want to remind you about our folks, no compensation for this, Oxford Tire Service. Dale Harbin and all the folks. Now, Alan Robinson's back up there with them, and they got some great, they'll do anything to fix your car. I don't know of anything they can't do. Great people, give 10% off to veterans, and you go by there and see them folks on Highway 78 there, Oxford Tire Service. Now, the Veterans Moments that you see here weekly are sponsored by K.L. Brown, Randy Wood, Steve Hurst, and Barbara Boyd. Those are the 16 bills that was passed last year. You would not know about them as a veteran if you hadn't saw these Veterans Moments. So we're continuing to put those on there with a new bill each week. So if you see Randy Wood and Steve, Barbara, KL, tell them thank you for doing that, because there's no reason for them to go to Montgomery and pass bills that benefit veterans if you don't know about the benefit. And by the way, you veterans out there, you can have the word veteran put on your driver's license. Go out to the Highway Patrol. When you get your next license, take your DD 214 with you. Get the word veteran. I've got it on mine in my pocket. It says veteran. Gives you discounts, and it also says something about who you are. Okay, the Veterans Court I talk about here every week. Judge Sedham has stepped up to the plate. We got about 25 now in the state of Alabama, and this one is in progress. And the guy I had on the show today, Colonel Potts, he's one of the coordinators of the mentor coordinators. And so if you'd like to be a part of that, contact me and I'll put you in touch with the proper people. If you'd like to be a battle buddy of the Veterans Treatment Court. I'm running out of time. I got to do some shout outs out here. Let's see. I got to shout out to Betty Carr. I can't go show without doing that. Betty Carr, I call her the ambassador to Anniston. You'll see her down at the Classic on Noble too. And I appreciate again Greg Potts for coming on here doing the show this week. This week, this salute goes out to anyone who assists our veterans in any way. Here we go. See you next week.